So good evening, my dear children of class 10. Today again we shall be moving ahead with Act 3 Scene 2. And in the last video, what we saw was Bassanio and Portia finally, literally and openly exchanging their love vows, and mostly the love vows being exchanged by Portia giving Bassanio a ring which she asks him never to lose it, and on the other hand Bassanio promising her that he shall never ever part away from it, and he shall part away from it only the day he dies. So with this, there is this mark of celebration that takes place between the two of them. In fact, in the entire atmosphere at Belmont and Portia's house is completely a happy occasion, where the two where there is this union between Portia and Bassanio that has finally taken place. But to our surprise, another union also is about to take place. And what union it is, we shall now see in this video, and we shall also be completing the rest of the scene of Act 3 Scene 2 in this video. So now let's move ahead with it. So then finally, Nerissa, she says, "My lord and lady, it is now our time that have stood by and seen our wishes prosper, to cry good joy, my lord and lady." So Portia has finally, her apprehension, for her anxiousness, her doubt, her fear, anxiety, everything has come to an end after Bassanio finally chooses the correct casket, and they have exchanged their love. As I had already told you, they are so happy that, the lottery system happened to be a success in case of Bassanio. They are more than happy, in fact, and Nerissa out here is congratulating her mistress by saying that now it is time for us to congratulate you and wish you good joy, good joy, my lord and lady. Then Gratiano, "My lord Bassanio and my gentle lady, I wish you all the joy that you can wish, for I am sure you can wish none from me. And when your honors mean to solemnize the bargain of your faith, I do beseech you, even at that time I may be married too. So my lord Bassanio and my lady, I congratulate you. There is nothing more that I can do but to congratulate you right now. And I'm really happy because y'all will soon solemnize, y'all will soon y'all will be engaged. And as you do so, now comes the surprise out here. What he says that is, towards the end, even at that time I may be married to. I request you to allow me also to get married." So see out here, Gratiano, like he acts like a kind of a shadow of Bassanio, where whatever he does, the same thing is repeated by Bassanio, and likewise Nerissa also does the same. And in fact, during the Elizabethan time, there was this trend amongst the maids and the servants of the lord and the mistress, that supposing if a lord and the mistress, if a lord of one house, noble house, and the mistress of another noble house would fall in love, would have a love affair, likewise there was this trend that their respective servants too would do the same with one another. They too would fall in love, and they too would do and follow whatever their respective masters would do. And that is exactly what Shakespeare is once again trying to show out here. He's trying to show the kind of practice that was prevalent amongst the maids and the servants then. Yes, so then Bassanio, "With all my heart, so thou canst get a wife. Yes, I will definitely allow you to get married with all my heart, provided that you get a wife for yourself." Then Gratiano, I thank your lordship, you have got me one. Most certainly, I thank you, Lord. He's thanking Bassanio. It is why? Because Gratiano says, because my lord, it is you who actually got me one wife. And now how is that possible? What happens? What he does? He takes Nerissa by the hand and, "My eyes, my lord, can look as swift as yours, just as how swift your eyes is in searching the love, in finding the love of your life. Likewise, my eyes are no less. See, you saw the mistress, I held the maid. You saw the mistress, that is Portia, and I held her maid. See, you loved, I loved. For intermission, see, like the shadow of his master Bassanio. For intermission means period of waiting. Period of waiting when? When Bassanio was making that choice, they were waiting for the result to happen, you know. So during that procedure, during that intermission, during that period of waiting, no more pertains to me, no more welcome to me, you know. My lord, then you, for your fortune stood upon the casket there, and so did mine. And everything happened when everything happened during the period of waiting, because just as your fate and your fortune depended upon those caskets, you know, upon the choice, the kind of choice that you would make, likewise my fortune also depended on it. As the matter falls, and that means as things turn out, for wooing here until I sweat again, and swearing till my very roof was dry. Roof here is referred to the tip of his tongue. So I got a promise of this fair one here, the fair one, this fair one here is referred to Nerissa. One here, to have a love provided that your fortune achieved her mistress. So how his fortune also, how Gratiano's fortune also depended on the casket, he makes it clear out here. He says that, you know, that as Bassanio was moving ahead with the process of choosing the right casket, during that period of waiting for Gratiano, Nerissa, and the rest of the servants out there, during that moment, Gratiano had laid his eyes on Nerissa, and he fell in love immediately, just as Bassanio fell in love with Portia. And during that period of waiting, he tried his level best. He used every ways and means and every kind of word and expression he used in order to flatter and to woo, to court Nerissa. And finally, after a very long duration of wooing, courting Nerissa, she finally agreed, but on one condition. She agreed on one condition, saying that if Bassanio, Gratiano's master, would choose the correct casket and win Portia's hand, she would be his. That is, Gratiano would be allowed to marry Nerissa. So that was the condition she had applied. And now that Bassanio had chosen the right casket, so he too won his wife. That is exactly what he says and explains out here. Portia, is this true, Nerissa? She is unable to believe. Portia, is this true, Nerissa? Whatever I am hearing, is it really true? Nerissa, madam, it is. You can, so you stand pleased withal. Madam, it is quite true, provided it is pleasing to you. Then Bassanio, and do you, Gratiano, mean good faith? That means, Gratiano, do you really intend to marry this lady in good faith? Then Gratiano, yes, faith, my lord. Yes, with all my good faith, lord. Trust me. Bassanio then says, our feast shall be much honored in your marriage. So he is extremely happy and welcomes this new proposal, new marriage, new union that shall take place between Gratiano and Nerissa, and he is more than happy to welcome and honor their marriage too along with them. Then Gratiano says, but who comes here? As they were having this conversation, somebody enters at that time. But who comes here? Lorenzo and his infidel. Lorenzo and his infidel. Infidel here refers to the Jewish. That is, the daughter of Shylock. Yes, the daughter of Shylock. Jessica. What? And my old Venetian friend Celerio. And also just along with him, along with Lorenzo and Jessica, there was another Venetian friend of theirs, and that is Celerio. He too had come out there. Then enter Lorenzo, Jessica, and Celerio. Bassanio, Lorenzo and Celerio, welcome hither, welcome to this place. If that the youth of my new interest, that is newly acquired right. What is that newly acquired right? He has now become the new lord of that house. Yes. Here, have power to bid you welcome to Portia. By your leave, I bid my very friends and countrymen, sweet Portia, welcome. So he welcomes them, Then Portia, so do I, my lord, they are entirely welcome. Yes, of course, they are all welcome, and I also equally welcome them. Then Lorenzo, I thank your honor. For my part, my lord, my purpose was not to have seen you here. So Lorenzo, honestly, he says that the reason why I am here is not because I came here to see you. It was not at all my purpose to meet you. But meeting with Celerio, by the way, he did entreat me, he did beg me, past all saying nay, and he begged me so much that that I could not refuse to come with him along. So it was under the insistence of Celerio that Lorenzo had come out there. Yes. Then Celerio says, I did insist, my lord, and I have reason for it, and there is a good enough reason why I insisted him to accompany me. Signor Antonio commends him to you. So Signor Antonio has sent his greeting to you. So it seems that Celerio had actually dawned at the court of Belmont, of Portia, with a letter that was sent forth by Antonio, that was meant for Bassanio. So then what happens? Gives Bassanio a letter that had been sent by Antonio. Bassanio, that is, before I open this letter, I pray you, tell me how my good friend's doth. Before I open this letter, tell me how my friend is doing. Then Celerio, not sick, my lord, unless it be in mind, although he is not physically sick, but unless it is in mind. So indirectly he's saying that he is not actually in a sound state. Then nor well unless in mind. His letter there will show you his estate. His letter will the letter that he has sent forth definitely will reveal you his current condition and how he is at the moment. Then Bassanio opens the letter. Gratiano, on the other hand, as Bassanio is reading the letter, Gratiano, on the other hand, he has he starts a conversation with his friends. So, Nerissa, cheer you stranger, bid her welcome. So, cheer you stranger. So, here the stranger is referred to Jessica, because the stranger, why? She is new out there in that circle of people. Nerissa, cheer you. So, Gratiano asks Nerissa to welcome Jessica and cheer her and also to welcome her. Then Nerissa greets Jessica. Gratiano salutes Celerio. So, your hand, Celerio. What's the news from Venice? How doth that royal merchant, good Antonio? I know he will be glad of our success. We are Jasons who have won the fleece. So, what news do you bring from Venice, dear friend Celerio? And by the way, how is he inquires? Gratiano inquires about the well-being of Antonio. How is that good merchant Antonio? I know. So Gratiano is very excited about the new turnover, and he says that Antonio will definitely be happy to after hearing the news about our success. For we have for the Jasons, he is referring by Jasons, he is referring to himself and Bassanio. We are the Jasons, we have won the fleece. So now fleece out here is referred to the gold fleece, and the fleece here is metaphorically referred to Portia and Nerissa. Yes. Then Celerio says, I would you had won the fleece that he hath lost. So I wish you could have won the gold that Antonio had lost. So it seems, so from here we get to know that the way Celerio had been responding to the questions of Bassanio as well as Gratiano gives us an idea that something is not good at all. Then Portia, There are shrewd, and Portia, on the other hand, she was observant about the change taking place in Bassanio as he was reading through that letter of Antonio that had been sent through Celerio. Portia, there are shrewd contents in yon some paper. Shrewd means bitter content. So there must be something really not good in that paper, that letter, that steals the color from Bassanio's cheek, that makes Bassanio turn extremely pale. You turn pale when there is something, some bad news, when something is not good, not going right. Then that steals the color from Bassanio's cheek. Some dear friend dead, else nothing in the world could turn so much the constitution, that is the normal condition of a constant, that means a firm nerved man. What worse and worse? So there must be something bad in that letter. What if his friend has died? Or else there could be nothing that could have changed the normal condition of such a strong nerved person like Bassanio into pale, into something that is very pale, and what worse and worse, look at him, he's getting from bad to, he's going from, his facial expression is going from bad to worse. She lays her hand on his shoulder, so she could not help but feel very concerned about Bassanio, and she quickly lays her hand on Bassanio's shoulder and asks him, with leave, Bassanio, Bassanio, I am half yourself, and I must freely have the half of anything that this same paper brings you. So I am half of you, since I am half of yours, I am your wife. I too have the sole right to share what the content of that paper has that has turned you so pale. I wish to know it. Why? Because I am concerned. That concerns me. Then Bassanio, oh sweet Portia, here are few of the unpleasantest words that ever blotted paper. So it was indeed something very bad. Gentle lady, when I did first impart my love to you, I freely told you all the wealth I had ran in my veins. So when I first, he's telling her that when I first revealed my love to you, when I first imparted my love to you, I told you that, all the wealth I had ran in my veins. So what he meant was that he came from a noble birth. He was from a noble birth. I was a gentleman. And then I told you true. And what I told you then was true. Yet, dear lady, rating, that is valuing myself at nothing, you shall see how much I was a braggart, and by doing so, I was boasting about myself. When I told you my state was nothing, I should have told you that I was worse than nothing. Because when I told you that my state was nothing, I should have told you that I was worse than nothing. And why worse than nothing? Because because I have engaged myself to a dear friend. Engaged my friend to his mare, means absolute enemy, to feed my means, that is to increase my resources, Then here is a letter, my lady. The reason why I feel that the reason why he says that he feels that he should have told Portia that he is worse than nothing is that now he feels out here what he is. He's completely overtaken by guilt, because now it seems that Antonio is not in a good state. Antonio seems to be in trouble, and that trouble is with Shylock. Yes, and it seems that and because of that situation that has evolved, that has taken place back at Venice, which has been clearly stated in the letter, content of that letter, Bassanio feels extremely guilty, for he feels that he is to be blamed for putting Antonio in such a position, for it was Bassanio, for it was Bassanio, he feels that it was because of him who wanted to fulfill his desire to come to Belmont, for that Antonio had put himself in danger at the hands of his absolute enemy, that is Shylock. Then see, here is a letter, my lady, the paper, paper as the body of my friend, and every word in it a gaping gaping wound, issuing lifeblood. So he compares. So he, with extreme grief and guilt, he forwards the letter to a letter in Portia's hand, and he says, "Here is the letter, and the letter is no different from the body of Antonio, and every word written on it is a gaping wound from which lifeblood is oozing out." Which where what he meant is each and every word is piercingly in a bloody manner piercing for him to read. It is very painful. But it is true. But is it true, Salerio? Have all the ventures failed? So this is exactly what had been written. So we get an idea what was written in it. So it shows that from here we clearly get an idea that Antonio had written that all his venture had failed, and that he had to forfeit a pound of flesh. Then Salerio, have all his ventures failed? What, not one hit, not one returned safely? So he was so surprised, he was shocked. From Tripolis, from Mexico and England, from Lisbon, Barbary in India, what about all these ships that had gone to all these places? Have not one of the ships even returned safely? And not one vessel escaped the dreadful touch of merchant marine rocks, and not one of them sailed safely without having an accident with any of the rocks or any of the natural calamities. So he's trying to confirm, he is not able to believe that not one of Antonio's ship had returned to Venice on time. Earlier we had seen that Antonio was extremely confident that his ship would return within 2 months, that is 1 month prior to the expiry of the bond. But sadly, it seems that none of the bond had, not one of the ship had returned. Yes. Then Salerio says, "Not one, my lord. Beside, it would appear that if he had the present money to discharge the due, he would not take it. Yes, my lord, what you heard and what you read is absolutely true. Not a single ship has returned. And not just that, now that the term has ended, now that 3 months have ended, and even if Antonio had the entire sum in his hand and he was willing to return, he would return that money to Shylock. Shylock, on the other hand, was so obstinate and so stubborn that he would by no chance take that money. Then, never did I know a creature that did bear the shape of a man, and never have I seen such a creature, such a being in the shape of a man, who is so keen, who is so eager and greedy to confound. That is, confound means to destroy, who is so eager and greedy to destroy a man's life. I've never seen such a creature, such a being like Shylock in the shape of a man. So what he's saying, in the shape of a man, means he is not human. So he's somebody who's so inhuman, who wants to do something so cruel. Then he plies. Now he here is referred to Shylock. He plies. Plies means presses. He pressurizes. He presses the Duke at morning and at night, and doth impeach. So he pressurizes. He presses Duke to give him justice. And to punish Antonio. Why? Because he has failed to return the money as per the bond within the given time and at a given place. So he wants justice, and in order to seek justice, it seems that Shylock is going to the Shylock visits the court of Duke day and night, pressing him, saying doth impeach means threatening him to take legal action, legal action against Venice, the freedom of the state, if they deny him justice. 20 merchants, the Duke himself, and the Magnificos, if they deny him justice. So during that time, in Venice, before that, what I want to tell you is Shylock is a Jew. And Shylock, although he resides in Venice, but in spite of it, he is still a foreigner in that city. In the city of Venice, he is still a foreigner who is residing out there in Venice and doing business. And like him, there were many foreigners residing in Venice. And Venice, as we already talked about, Venice was the center of business exchange that took place between countries far, near and wide. So it was basically the business center. So Venice had the revenue, the entire revenue of Venice depended upon the business transaction that took place with the foreign traders. All right, the entire state revenue depended on it. And Shylock, being a foreign merchant, and now that he was demanding justice from the Duke, he was threatening the Duke that if he was not given justice, then he would raise alarm in the entire city of Venice and rouse concern amongst the foreign traders about the unjust act of the state, where he was not provided justice, thereby spreading fear and mistrust in the hearts and the minds of all the foreign traders. Why? Because some certain right was also provided to the foreign traders by the state, by the city, Venice. So to shake that right and to shake the trust of any of the foreign traders meant to shake the economy shake the economy and threaten the economy of their own state. So Shylock was threatening the Duke, saying that if he does not give him justice, then he will raise alarm, and doing so, what will happen? Definitely, the economy of the city, Venice, will weaken, and if that happens, it will be a great threat to the city's economy. So, and definitely that would compel Duke to provide Shylock with justice. So keeping that in mind, Shylock was threatening the Duke that I will take legal action against the state. That was what he was saying and threatening the Duke. Then the Duke himself and the Magnificos means noblemen of greatest port, of highest standing, highest position, have all reasoned with him. So it seems that, immediately he was not given what he was supposed to receive. That is a pound of flesh from Antonio. Why? Because it seems that the Duke himself and various Magnificos, various noblemen and various merchants, they were persuading and reasoning with Shylock to lessen the severity of his punishment. Why? From here we get to know the kind of relationship that existed between Antonio and the people of Venice, even the dukes as well as the Magnificos. It seems that they were well-wishers of Antonio. That is what we see. That's why they were trying to persuade and reason with Shylock. But none can drive him from the envious plea. Envious plea means the revengeful claim. And what is that revengeful claim? To exact a pound of flesh from Antonio's fair part of his body, from his nearest heart. Of forfeiture of justice and his bond with fulfillment of justice. So in spite of it, in spite of their plea, in spite of the reasoning and the persuasion of the Duke, the Magnificos, and the other merchants, their plea seems to have fallen on deaf ears of Shylock, for he was insistent and persistent that he get what he was supposed to receive, and that is a pound of Antonio's flesh. So Jessica, when I was with him, I have heard him swear. So Jessica is talking about her father. When I was with him before she eloped with Lorenzo, I have heard him swear to Tubal and to curse his countrymen. So these two, Tubal and Cus, they were countrymen. His countrymen means they were other Jew fellows. That he would rather have Antonio's flesh than 20 times the value of the sum that he did owe him. So here the truth is revealed even more, that it was a plan of Shylock from the very beginning, even before the end of the term of 3 months, where Jessica had overheard her father talking to two of his friends, Cus and Tubal, so where he had said that it is that he would prefer more to have Antonio's pound of flesh than even if somebody comes and offers him 20 times more the sum of 3,000 ducats, he would rather opt for Antonio's pound of flesh. So that did owe him, and I know, my lord, if law, authority, and power deny not, it will go hard with poor Antonio. So, and I know, and Jessica warns Bassanio, saying that, and I know, please trust me, my lord, I know my father, for if some higher authority, if some power or the other do not put a stop to my father's cruel intention, then definitely there is nothing that can help Antonio. For when I heard my father talking to two of his friends, I was convinced that my father would by no means change his decision, even if it meant even if the entire world's wealth was offered to him, he would still want a pound of flesh of Antonio. Yes, Portia, then, is it your dear friend that is thus in trouble? So is this your dear friend? The person whom you are talking about, is he your dear friend? Then Bassanio, the dearest friend to me. He is not just dear, but the dearest friend to me. He is the kindest man, the best conditioned, the best natured, and unwearied spirit in doing courtesies. That means who never gets tired of doing kindness for others, kindness to others, and one in whom the ancient Roman honor more appears than any that draws breath in Italy. So, and he is such a person who displays the Roman honor. Romans were regarded as men of great honor. So there is no one in Italy as honorable as Antonio, who displays great Roman honor. So he is such kind of a friend of mine, says Bassanio. Portia, what sum owes he the Jew? So how much money does Shylock owe? Then Bassanio, for me 3,000 ducats. Portia, what? No more? What do you mean? It's just 3,000 ducats? Just for 3,000 ducats? So she is extremely shocked at such a meager sum, obviously, because she is a very rich lady. Then what happens is, see, pay him 6,000 and deface means destroy the bond, double 6,000 and then triple that before a friend of this description shall lose a hair through Bassanio's fault. So if you have to pay him, have to pay him double the amount, and if you have to triple the amount, then do so before a friend of such good description shall lose a hair, even a single strand of hair, just because of your fault, just because of Bassanio's fault. So, and she's ready to help Bassanio's friend, that is Antonio. First, go with me to the church and call me wife, and then away to Venice to your friend. But first, before you go to Venice, I want you to come to the church, and I want us to get married. For never shall you lie by Portia's side with an unquiet soul, because I want you to marry. I want you to marry me before you leave for Venice, because you must not lie by me. You must not stay by my side with such an unquiet soul of yours, because definitely you will not be happy if you have to remain with me instead of allowing you to go to Venice. So you shall have gold to pay the petty debt 20 times over, and I shall give you the money. You shall have all the gold. You can take the value of the gold 20 times more the amount of the sum that Antonio was indebted to. Then when it is paid, bring your bring your true friend along. And not just that, after you pay the entire amount and how much is required, after that I want you to bring your true friend, that is Antonio, out here. My maid Nerissa and myself meantime will live as maids and widows, and in the meantime, when you will be there, when you will be gone to Venice, when you will be there at Venice, me and my maid Nerissa, we will be leading a life out here as widows. Come away, come now, for you shall hence upon your wedding day bid your friends welcome, show a merry cheer, since you are dear brought. So come now, let's move ahead quickly, and ask your friends to join us too. They too are welcome, and ask everybody to show a merry face. Let's not be sad. Now it's a moment of joy. So since you are dear brought, so come, let's since your friend has paid dearly for you, I will love you, dear. Since your friend has paid dearly for you, I will love you even more. Let me hear the letter of your friend. So she asks Bassanio to read the letter. Then Bassanio reads the letter. He reads, "Sweet Bassanio, my ships have all miscarried. So all my ships have met with a disaster. My creditors now grow cruel. My estate is very low. My bond to the Jew is forfeit, and since in paying it is impossible I should live. So I have failed to return the money because none of my ships have returned, and all my ships, it seems that they have met with an accident, and now that I will have to forfeit a pound of flesh to Shylock. If I do so, I am certain that I will not live. I will die." And then what he says is, "It is impossible I should live. All debts are cleared between you and I. If I might see you at my death, and I request you to, before I die, I want you to meet me, and in doing so, think that all the debts that you had towards me will be cleared if you come and meet me. Notwithstanding, use your pleasure. So please yourself. If your love do not persuade, but if your love does not impel you to come, let not my letter, please pay no attention to my letter." So this was what written out there in that letter of Antonio. He has forwarded the information that everything has failed, all his ships have failed, and that now he will have to exact a pound of flesh, and there is this huge possibility that he might die. So before that, he wanted to meet Bassanio, but if Bassanio's love does not allow him to come, then Antonio requests Bassanio to not pay attention to whatever was written by him in that letter. Then Portia, "Oh love, dispatch all business and be gone. Oh love, dispatch." Dispatch means expedite. So just finish everything, and let's just finish everything, and I want you to go quickly as possible to Venice. Be gone, Bassanio. Since I have your good leave, since I have your kind permission to go away, I will make haste. I will be quick. But till I come again, no bed shall ever be guilty of my stay. That means no sleep shall lengthen my stay. No rest be impostor twixt us twain. Means no rest shall keep us separate from you. Nothing will separate us, and nothing will make me forget you. So that is what they say, and they quickly move ahead towards the church to solemnize their bond. And that is exactly what happens. So this scene out here towards the end prepares us for the court scene that is soon to take place. So now we are very certain that now we get an information and certain that Shylock has finally succeeded in his plot. He has succeeded in in taking his revenge, in wanting to take his revenge, and he is near to being successful, where he will, where in the next scene you shall see him sharpening his knife that he had carried along with him. Why? In order to cut a fair pound of flesh from Antonio's body. So here we see the kind of thirst for revenge that Shylock all along he had carried. And yes, we should not forget that his thirst for revenge, seeking revenge against Antonio, who is a Christian, it turns even more sour and greater after Shylock's daughter Jessica elopes with another Christian, Lorenzo, that deepens his hatred towards Antonio and deepens his desire, to take revenge against Antonio. And that is exactly what we see out here in this scene. So with this, we finish Act 3, Scene 2, and in the next video we shall move ahead with the Act 3, Scene 3. So till then, stay safe and have a good day. Thank you very much.